Alright, so I found another one. I was scrolling through the videos and I found a screenshot or the thumbnail, I guess, of an NES cartridge. And I figured, hey, that's where I started with video games. So, the seventh door. Apparently it's safe. It is 4 years old. Hopefully I'll be forgiven. But I saw an NES cartridge and I'm like, oh, nostalgia. Ooh. You push it into the NES, you push it down, you push the power button, and it might work. Probably not. So you push the power button again, and you push it back in. It might work, probably not. So you power off, power on. Power off, power on. Getting the game to work was a game in itself. I was taken back to my childhood. So I don't know what the hell this is about. The 4054. There's a lot of these flipping things. But let's check it out. Let's see if it's fun. And if it's safe, I'm going to assume it won't kill us all. But hey, it might have some methods, I guess. It usually does. Should have paused on that, shouldn't I?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Miller, and the SCP we're going to be looking at today is SCP-4054. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures. 3 NES Nintendo Entertainment System consoles modified to run SCP-4054 are to be kept for testing purposes. SCP-4054 is to be stored on site in a secure locker. Access is limited to Level 3 personnel and above. Foundation agents monitoring flea markets, yard sales, and property auctions for anomalous activity are to be briefed on the existence of SCP-4054. Any NES cartridges suspected of being copies of SCP-4054 are to be purchased for examination.
I mean, look at this shit. It even had an arrow to signal to you what to shove into the console first. Man, I'm not gonna lie. I really miss these things. You know, when you can hold the game in your hands. Like, I understand, like, the digital thing has its advantages, you know, shelf space and all that kind of stuff. But just being, like, the feeling of pushing one of these things into the console and then pushing them down. Childhood.
A Foundation-operated bot, IO Sauron, is to monitor online gaming communities for discussions regarding the existence of SCP-4054. A joint operation involving Mobile Task Force Mu-4, debuggers, and Mobile Task Force Gamma-5, Red Herrings, is to be conducted to investigate these discussions and determine whether the participants are aware of SCP-4054. All copies are to be recovered, and action is to be taken to discredit the existence of SCP-4054 as a hoax or urban legend. Any screen captures or videos of SCP-4054 are to be removed or otherwise replaced with doctored images to further perpetuate this narrative. Description: SCP-4054 is the Seventh Door, an unlicensed platform adventure game released for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1988.
It should be 2 years before I was born, but this is where it started, man. Ooh, 1994. Helped the guy out clean. I helped my dad help a guy clean out a store. And he gave my dad cigarettes and beers, and he couldn't really give that to 40-year-old me, so he gave me a kind of functioning NES. Ooh, that's where all this shit started, man. That's where this mess started, and it hurts seeing the game gaming industry where it is today. It hurts.
Contents of each cartridge vastly exceeds the storage limitations of its ROM chip, read-only memory. Extracting SCP-4054's PRG ROM produces a data file too large to be contained on any currently available device. Because of its limited publication, 300 units, inability to be copied, limited replayability, and incomplete state, functional copies of the Seventh Door are highly valued by vintage NES collectors. The game is also notable for its unique method of bypassing the North American version of the 10NES lockout system. The 10NES lockout system was designed by Nintendo to prevent unlicensed cartridges from operating on their consoles.
I don't mean to be a dick, but that didn't really work out. Like, if I remember correctly, that did not work out for them. There was so much unlicensed shit. And it barely works, but somehow it was better than 99% of the crap we get today.
Each cartridge includes two transistors that function as a voltage inverter. When activated, this component produces a negative charged voltage spike that can temporarily disable early versions of the console's CIC, checking integrated circuit, bypassing the authentication lock and allowing unlicensed cartridges to run. Later iterations of the NES would add a series of 1K resistors along with diodes and grounds to prevent this technique from circumventing the lockout unit. However, a defect in this voltage inverter's design causes irreparable damage to the Seventh Door's SRAM, static random access memory, with each successive reset. This produces an increasing number of glitches which will inevitably render the cartridge non-functional.
Oh.
The Seventh Door was shipped prior to completion. As a consequence, several core components of gameplay differ from what is depicted in its instruction manual and box art. The protagonist has no extra lives. Upon dying, all progress is lost. The cartridge resets. All power-ups described in the manual are absent save one, the Hand of Glory. According to European folklore, a Hand of Glory is the left hand of a man who has been hanged for murder. When used as a candle, those who perceive its light cannot approach its holder, which prevents monsters and platforms from moving for 10 seconds. All monsters are absent. Falling into a pit does not kill the protagonist. The protagonist will instead continue to fall off screen as the game over sound loops. Memory overflow errors periodically cause sprites to load incorrectly. The prisoners use the protagonist's sprite rather than their own. After unlocking a door, prisoners provide no clue regarding the location of other keys. The text boxes are empty. The protagonist dies at apparently random intervals, typically after a period of remaining still. This occurs regardless of whether or not the game is paused. To date, researchers have uncovered several hundred levels beyond the seventh, described in the manual as the final level and the location of the seventh key. These stages consist of vast networks of crypts, prisons, abandoned factories, and empty underground cities. The precise number of additional levels beyond the seventh has not yet been determined, but vastly exceeds the storage capacity of the cartridge's ROM chip.
Looking at the player character, I'm going to assume that's what it is. This is not an NES game. Like, I hate to be that guy, but I cannot remember NES games having that many pixels. I'm just gonna throw that out there. This no, I'm kind of taking it out of it because I don't remember the main characters. So like, you know, like on the NES, like you had like a player character that was like 8 pixels. This looks too clean for that, but that's besides the point, I guess. Let's continue.
The seventh level does not contain the seventh key. Addendum 4054-1 Video stream. In 2004, Charles Rogers, an amateur NES cartridge collector, posted a thread at www.openingtheseventhdoor.int, a defunct online forum that was dedicated to the Seventh Door, under the username Inky49. There, he suggested using an NES Game Genie, produced in 1990. The Game Genie is a game-enhancing module that attaches between the NES cartridge and console. It permits direct modification of reference addresses in the ROM of the cartridge via strings of characters or code to directly set the value associated with the protagonist's number of
Fancy man speak of saying cheating. You typed in codes and all kinds of horrible shit happened.
Keys to 7. Several days later, Mr. Rogers posted a link to an online video stream where he intended to attempt to beat the Seventh Door using this exploit. Partway through his run, the video abruptly stopped. A follow-up investigation determined that Mr. Rogers had gone missing. Authorities suspected foul play after discovering several fingernails torn from Mr. Rogers' left hand inside his NES console. No copy of the Seventh Door was recovered. To date, SCP-4054 has been linked to 25 disappearances. It remains under investigation.
Cool.
Well, what can you really say about this one? I'm sorry, fellow gamers. This one, it's probably best to stay away from. Anyway, thank you all for listening, if indeed you still are, and you are all dismissed. Goodbye.
Oh, I got tricked by the length of the video.
I would like to give a special thank you to Susur Hintern, Zarguran, Onyx, Arbiter Soul, The Morrigan.
I don't mean to be an asshole. I was a little bit tricked, but I guess I should have looked at the time. I guess I'm merging two videos. So I don't know if I want to upload a 12-minute video. So, I'm going to assume this is something to do with sleep paralysis demons. Now, luckily for me, never been bothered by that. But I know people who have. So it's actually a 24-minute video. Jesus Christ. Yeah, let's hear about sleep paralysis. SCP-3060. I think I had a graphics card that was something like that. No, that was 3050. Never mind. I need to pee.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Miller, and the SCP we're going to be looking at today is SCP-3060. Object Class: Keter, previously Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. Individual instances of SCP.
They can fucking evolve? Because Keter was like the less optimal one, wasn't it? Shit.
SCP-3060 are to be kept in high-security lockers within the storage wing of Site-64. All testing involving SCP-3060 requires the approval of both the Site Ethics Committee and Site Command. No more than 4 individuals may be infected by SCP-3060 for testing purposes at any given time. Individuals infected by SCP-3060 are to be kept in Type 1 standard humanoid containment chambers within the Humanoid Anomaly Containment Wing of Site-64. Cells have been equipped with alarm systems to prevent instances from entering REM sleep outside of designated sleeping hours, approximately 2200 to 0600 local time. During designated sleeping hours, all personnel are to evacuate from the radius of each infected individual's anomalous effect. Following termination of any individual infected by SCP-3060, containment personnel are to initiate a site-wide lockdown and begin the Hypnos protocol to prevent the spread of infection. Description: Instances of SCP-3060 are small medical devices that superficially resemble continuous positive airway pressure or CPAP machines. The individual materials that compose SCP-3060 instances are non-anomalous and operate identically to a typical CPAP machine of its size and make. The Foundation currently has 5 instances of SCP-3060 in its custody. SCP-3060's anomalous effects become apparent when worn by a sleeping human. When an individual wearing an instance of SCP-3060 enters their second REM cycle, a humanoid incorporeal entity, hereafter referred to as SCP-3060-A, will appear within a 5-meter radius of the individual and stand over them until they wake up. At this point, SCP-3060-A will disappear, and the individual wearing SCP-3060 will become infected. From that point on, regardless as to whether the individual wears SCP-3060, the SCP-3060-A entity will appear when they enter their second REM cycle each night and remain until awakening.
Or until self-inflicted popping, I guess.
While instances of SCP-3060-A appear as featureless silhouettes upon first manifestation, they quickly take on a unique shape based on each infected individual. As such, SCP-3060-A entities have no standard appearance. While a full list of observed SCP-3060-A instances can be found in Document 3060-B, notable observed instances include a figure roughly the size of a human infant composed entirely of fused teeth.
They quickly take on an unique shape based on each infected individual. SCP-3060 is it? Didn't it have something like that where like whatever the kids feared, that's what it was? I don't know, I didn't watch the movie, I just... Clown? Fuck that.
A humanoid superficially resembling an elderly woman dressed in dark clothes, lacking a mouth or eyes. The instance's arms are both severely injured, with compound fractures visible. A partially disintegrated humanoid composed of ash, dressed in red lingerie. A naked humanoid covered in tire tracks and showing signs of severe crush injuries. A humanoid whose torso consisted of a large mouth. And a clown. While an SCP-3060-A entity stands with...
It is it. It's it. 3060 is it.
Within the presence of an infected individual, any additional human subject that enters a 50-meter radius of the infected will enter a catatonic state. At this point, an additional instance of SCP-3060-A will appear within the proximity of the infected individual. The additional SCP-3060-A entity will then approach the catatonic subject, phasing through solid matter if the subject is in a separate room. Upon arriving at the subject, the new SCP-3060-A instance will phase its hand through the subject's skull and then vanish, causing the subject to immediately fall asleep. All subjects touched by the SCP-3060-A entity in this manner become new instances of SCP-3060 infected upon awakening.
What? BRB, I just need to read that. So, is it like a zombie thing? All subject touched by the SCP-3060-A entity in this manner becomes a new instance of SCP-30 upon awakening. So it's like a... You have one of these like paralysis demons, and if they touch you, you become a paralysis demon. Yeah. I'm good.
Testing has shown that awakening the infected, whether through physical or auditory stimuli, following the appearance of an SCP-3060-A entity, will cause the latter to immediately vanish and catatonic subjects to regain movement. Additionally, SCP-3060-A entities will not approach non-catatonic subjects outside of the range of an infected individual's anomalous properties. Non-human subjects are immune to all of SCP-3060's effects. All attempts to communicate with SCP-3060-A instances have thus far been met with failure. SCP-3060 infection has long-term effects on the health of infected persons. After at least 3 days, infected individuals often begin to display fatigue, mood changes, impaired performance, and memory problems.
Yeah, I'm going to assume it's a little bit hard to take a nap when you have to deal with this shit. And those things happen in those cases.
Even after obtaining a full night's sleep, infected individuals often report frequent nightmares, though no central themes or correlations have been observed in the content of said dreams. Within a month, infected individuals will often develop visual and auditory hallucinations.
Again, quite normal when you get fuck all sleep.
As well as delusions that their mind is no longer their own, but rather has been stolen by someone or something.
That's
Soon
new.
after, infected individuals descend into full psychosis as they become unable to distinguish the content of their dreams from reality. In extreme cases, after at least 2 months of infection, hair loss, Kennedy's subita, partial or complete blindness, somatic complaints, cataplexy, and alien limb syndrome have been observed. Attempts by medical staff to alleviate these conditions in the long term have thus far been met with failure, though symptoms are delayed in individuals with previous diagnosis of insomnia. Sleep deprivation has likewise proven effective in delaying the onset of the symptoms of SCP-3060 infection. Research into a cure is currently ongoing. If no human subjects enter the area of an SCP-3060 infected individual's effect during REM sleep for 7 consecutive days, or the infected individual dies, an instance of SCP-3060-A will appear. The SCP-3060-A entity will then proceed to search for the nearest sleeping human. Upon locating this individual, SCP-3060-A will stand over them until they enter their next REM sleep cycle, at which point the SCP-3060-A entity will reach into their skull and vanish. At this point, the sleeping individual will become infected. Should the sleeping individual awaken during the process, or SCP-3060-A be unable to locate a suitable subject within 3 hours, it will vanish without spreading the SCP-3060 infection.
Cool.
Addendum 3060-A. Recovery. Foundation agents first became aware of SCP-3060 on March 21, 2015. When the entire census of the Portland Sleep Medical Clinic became infected following a volunteer sleep study using SCP-3060 to prevent hypnagogic sleep paralysis. All infected individuals thereafter were brought into Foundation custody, and all records related to the study seized by Foundation operatives. None of the records seized indicated an origin of the SCP-3060 instances, and all staff associated with the project died in their sleep shortly upon being brought into Foundation custody. Autopsies revealed large quantities of SCP-3966-A within the staff members' cerebrospinal fluid. An investigation into Dr. Cynthia Zhao, the primary investigator of the Portland Sleep Medicine study associated with SCP-3060, uncovered her to be a frequent user of SCP-2876.
Which one's that? Is it 2876? 2876. Dream a little dream, and often associated with the phrase appears. A smartphone application that induces us, big word, sleepwalking state in users. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I don't know what the fuck that means, but hey, apparently it's a smartphone app that makes you immune to, I guess.
Upon Mobile Task Force Omicron Rho, the Dream Team, investigation into potential Wannaroi involvement in the creation of SCP-3060 Contacts within the Wanneroi Collective have denied responsibility for SCP-3060 and have indicated that the SCP-2876-AB had encountered no less than 4 internal breaches of security, particularly in areas of user information since its launch. Mobile Task Force Omicron Rho's investigation is still ongoing. Addendum 3060-B. Video log transcript of Test 3060-03. Forward. The following events took place on April 2, 2015, as part of the initial containment experiments for SCP-3060. An SCP-3060 infected individual was placed in a standard humanoid containment cell with instructions to go to sleep after being fitted with sensors to monitor brainwave patterns and vital signs. D-1260, D-2860, D-2106, and D-2306 were placed in nearby cells within the same holding block as the infected individual. All cells were equipped with CCTV cameras feeding into the same monitor bank. At approximately 2340, the infected individual entered her second REM cycle. 2345-21. D-1260 is playing solitaire at the table in his cell. D-2860 is reading on her cot. D-2106 is pacing within her cell. And D-2306 has fallen asleep sitting in his cell's chair. 2345-58. SCP-3060-A1 appears standing over the infected individual and resembles a headless humanoid with arms and legs replaced by spinal columns. Shortly after, an additional 4 instances of SCP-3060-A appear. Each additional instance resembles a featureless humanoid silhouette. The instances remain standing over the infected for the next 5 minutes. All D-Class personnel appear to have become catatonic. Those D-Class awake have expressions of distress upon their face. 2351. SCP-3060-A2 turns and leaves the infected cell, phasing through the door and entering the hallway where it then phases into D-2306's cell. D-3060-A2 stands over D-2306 for several seconds, then bends over and places its face near D-2306's ear before reaching into his skull.
Gross.
2355-30. D-3060-A3 phases through the floor and vanishes for several moments before phasing up through the floor of D-2860's cell, through her cot, then through her. SCP-3060-A3 remains motionless for several moments as it looks down at D-2860, who appears to be struggling against her catatonic state. SCP-3060-A3 then slowly reaches out and closes D-2860's eyes with its hand, then reaches into her skull. 2355-45. SCP-3060-A2 removes its hand from D-2306's skull and takes the shape of a male human with mathematical symbols in place of facial features. SCP-3060-A2 vanishes. 2356-15. SCP-3060-A4 climbs up the cell wall and phases through the ceiling and vanishes for several moments before phasing into D-2106's cell through the ventilation grate. The instance drops down and walks around D-2106 as she struggles against her catatonic state. D-2106 falls over. SCP-3060-A4 wraps its arms around D-2106 and begins to caress her head.
No.
After several moments of this, SCP-3060
Be a damn shame if it wasn't, intending to murder her horribly. Just a little embrace, a little hug. Death, I'm guessing.
The A4 reaches into D-2106's skull. 2357-46. SCP-3060-A3 removes its hand from D-2860's skull and takes the shape of a humanoid composed of a tightly wound thread. A variety of spiders are visible crawling in and out of openings along SCP-3060-A3's body. SCP-3060-A3 vanishes. 2356-42. SCP-3060-A5 leaves the infected cell, phasing through the walls from cell to cell before finally arriving at D-1260's cell. SCP-3060-A5 stands across the table from D-1260, staring at him for several moments while caressing his hand. D-1260 struggles against his catatonic state. SCP-3060-A5 reaches into D-1260's skull. 0047. SCP-3060-A4 removes its hands from D-2006's skull and takes the shape of a featureless white humanoid dressed in a Foundation lab coat. D-3060-A4 vanishes. 0230. SCP-3060-A5 removes its hand from D-1260's skull and takes the shape of a featureless black humanoid dressed in an amalgamation of paraphernalia from various authoritarian regimes. D-3060-A5 vanishes. 0538. SCP-3060-A1 remains standing over the infected until she awakens at approximately 0450.
Phenomenal thing to wake up to.
Addendum 3060, C. Interview Log 3060, 6. The following interview was conducted as part of routine mental health monitoring for SCP-3060 infected individuals on 03/03/2016. Interviewed, Researcher Joanna Corbin. Interviewer, Researcher Roland Farrow. Forward. The interview took place approximately 1.5 months following Researcher Corbin's infection by SCP-3060 during the 15/1/2016 containment breach of an instance of SCP-3060-A. Researcher Corbin had begun to report visual and auditory hallucinations 1 week earlier. Due to her knowledge on SCP-3060's effects and prior diagnosis of insomnia, Researcher Corbin has shown remarkable resistance to SCP-3060's hallucinogenic effects. Playing log now.
Evening, Joanna.
Evening, Roland. Sorry if I'm not exactly 100% today. To be frank, I'm exhausted. It's hard to concentrate when the walls are bleeding. Don't sit there!
Researcher Farrow pauses as he begins to sit in his chair. He then stands and straightens his lab coat.
May I ask why?
Trust me, Roland. I'll be much more composed if I don't have to watch you sit in that chair.
The hallucinations have progressed to that severity already.
They have. It's like my eyes are constantly getting these little pop-ups of nonsense. And then there's this fucking voice that keeps commenting on things. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Shut up!
The auditory hallucinations are a constant at this point, then?
Just the one. I personally like to think it's the voice of the 3060-A that's creeping on me, but I have no way to prove that. And it's not like it's going to tell the truth.
Researcher Corbin rubs her eyes for several moments and sighs heavily.
I'm so fucking tired right now, Roland. Sleeping's become a chore.
I don't mean to interrupt, but she said, I think pretty sure she said tired.
Researcher Corbin rubs her eyes for several moments and sighs heavily.
I'm so fucking tired right now.
She says tired, but the text says fried. I'm just gonna leave you with that because I really need to take a piss. Just 2 minutes plus extra because I don't want to rush. All right, let's keep going.
Roland, sleeping's become a chore. A nightmare-filled chore that leaves me feeling more exhausted than when I went to bed. And when I wake up, it's like I'm taking the nightmares with me. Like the barrier between my conscious and subconscious has become a sieve. Or something.
These auditory hallucinations, what do they...
Researcher Corbin covers her mouth with her hand and stifles a mixture of tears and laughter. She then points at Researcher Farrow.
Your face is just melted off, Roland. We should probably hurry this up. I don't know how much more I can take.
Right. These auditory hallucinations, what kind of things do they say?
Comments on thoughts I have, on things I see. Sometimes asks me about myself. I have to say, when the other infected said they felt like their mind wasn't their own, I didn't really know what they were saying, but I sure as hell do now.
Do you believe that the voice is trying to control you, command you, influence you in any way?
Fuck if I know, Roland. If it is, it's doing a pretty shitty job at it. Honestly, I'd say it's just here for the headspace and to enjoy the ride, but again, what the hell do I know?
You could just be an asshole. That is very much a possibility. Then again, this is a cater, so it's probably not good. Oop, I didn't.
Researcher Corbin then closes her eyes and places her head in her arms upon the table.
Can we be done, please?
I'm afraid we have just a few more things to get through before we're done. Bear with me.
All right.
Researcher Ferro quickly writes down several sentences on a piece of notebook paper. How you're describing this auditory hallucination, you make it sound like a separate intelligence. I'm writing down a few questions that I'm going to want you to ask it. Researcher Ferro slides the piece of paper to Researcher Corbin. Corbin eyes the document for several moments, then turns her head towards the edge of the table. Corbin then sighs in frustration before rubbing her temples.
The words marched like ants off the page, Roland. I can't read this.
Cool.
I'll dictate them. I got a hunch, and I'm going to need some confirmation before I can move forward in that direction. Researcher Ferro takes the piece of paper back and begins to read aloud. Number 1, what do you call yourself? Number 2, are you a separate entity from Joanna Corbin? Number 3, do you exist within her mindscape, or are you based in some other... Researcher Corbin rapidly backs away from Researcher Ferro in fear, flipping over the table on the way.
Jesus!
Jesus.
Fire! Roland! Fire!
Researcher Corbin removes her jacket and tackles Ferro to the ground, and attempts to snuff out a fire on Ferro's person. Security personnel intervene and pull Corbin off Ferro, keeping her restrained as she struggles to free herself for a total of 2 minutes. Eventually, Corbin yields. Ferro then orders the security personnel to release her. Corbin proceeds to lower herself onto the floor and crawl away. She then sits in the far corner of the room in tears. Christ, Joanna, what the hell was that?
You got to the second question, then burst into flames, Roland. I couldn't watch you die like that. I can't answer these questions. I fucking can't do this.
Researcher Ferro approaches Researcher Corbin in an attempt to comfort her. Corbin immediately pulls herself into the fetal position.
Get away from me!
Researcher Ferro pauses for several moments, then nods in agreement. Very well. I'll leave the list with you. See if you can ask them when you have a less visually clustered moment. Researcher Ferro leaves. Researcher Corbin attempts to read the list again. After what appear to be multiple attempts, she screams out in frustration, crumples the paper, and throws it against the nearby wall. Researcher Corbin then places her head in her hands.
That'll help.
End log. Addendum 3060-D. Update 2210-2016. On October 22nd, 2016, a Curvier pharmaceutical advertisement for SCP-3060 appeared in over 100 publications in the United States, Canada, and Europe. By the time mass censorship protocols could be enacted, and the source of the ad was traced to a Curvier logistics warehouse in Seattle, Washington, approximately 3,000 instances of SCP-3060 had been shipped, with Mobile Task Force Alpha-4 Pony Express operatives able to stop 2,700 in transit. An additional 270 instances of SCP-3060 were later captured at their destinations. Currently, 30 instances of SCP-3060 remain uncontained. Warehouse staff were oblivious to the effect of the devices when interviewed, having all been hired within the last 2 weeks. Over half of these individuals were users of SCP-2876 prior to their hire date. All warehouse staff brought into Foundation custody died in their sleep shortly afterward. As before, large quantities of SCP-3966-A were found within the warehouse staff's CSF during autopsy. An investigation into both Curvier Pharmaceutical and Curvier Logistics is ongoing.
3966. The 3966, according to Google AI overview, so truckload of salt, refers to a 4-dimensional spider-like parasite protein found in this cerebral spinal fluid of people who die in their sleep. Ooh, joy! I'm probably gonna understand that when I edit this.
As of 25/10/2016, an unknown number of SCP-3060 infected individuals are currently believed to be uncontained, with outbreaks occasionally occurring in several major metropolitan areas. Attempts to contain SCP-3060 infected individuals are ongoing, due to SCP-3060 infection remaining largely undetectable within the general public until end-stage symptoms manifest. Several mobile task forces are on standby to investigate reports of multiple psychotic breaks and acts of violence occurring within a short time frame within the same geographic area. SCP-3060's object class has subsequently been updated to Keter. Pandemic levels of SCP-3060 infection are currently being considered a potential AK class end-of-the-world scenario.
Cool.
Okay, I think that about does it for today. Thank you for listening, if indeed you still are, and you are all dismissed. Goodbye.
Cool. Death by sleep paralysis demon. Let's just say I developed a fair bit of respect for people who deal with that shit. I don't think I ever actually dealt with a sleep paralysis demon. Thank fuck. 'Cause fuck that shit.